Alright, welcome back to Cool Things to Do in All the Mods 3 Remix. Now, this episode might be a bit shorter, maybe? I mean, I'm only doing this smeltery setup in this episode, but there is a lot to talk about with this, so it could still be pretty long. I guess you'll know. Anyway, the idea of this smeltery setup is the same as the previous one, in that you put ores in here and it automatically puts them in their respective tanks. However, we've now got refined storage integration. So as you can see, we have our grid here that tells us how much coal we've got. So 44 buckets. If you look in here, 44 buckets, 400 millibuckets. And this tells you for everything. So if we were to put in some gold ore in the smeltery and then speed it up a little bit, this will add in some extra gold into here, 31 blocks. And now it's on, 31 blocks is 40 buckets. And then you can see in here that we have 40 buckets. So this, I think, is really neat. Not necessarily practical. Keeping all your ingots in liquid form is not great, especially when you can't easily smelt them out into ingots again, which this can't. But it's really good for Tinker's construct things. So the other part of this smeltery is you can go on this grid here, control shift click on any of these patterns that you want. So say, for example, a pickaxe head, click start, and then I will now choose the ingot that I want to use. So I'm going to use iron because why not? Iron pickaxe, and then you then put in the material cost of the template, the cast that you used. So for a pickaxe it's 2, for a large plate it's 8, for what the armor thing is 6, something like that. So because we use a pickaxe head cast, we're going to use 2 iron ingots, and then start, and then it should drain iron from the smeltery, the liquid molten iron, and in a few seconds we should see an iron pickaxe head. Boom. And there you go. That's the system. That's how it works. Well, that's not how it works, but that's what it does. Now we'll get on to how it works. So, the first things first is that each one of these tanks is connected to an external storage set to fluid mode. This is important. It has to be fluid mode. Won't work with item mode. Set to whitelist as well, because blacklist is the default. And then you set a filter onto these. So molten aluminium brass will go into this one because this is the aluminium brass tank, and so on for all of the other tanks. And yeah, this is the same for everything. We have an external storage set up here with the cables going all the way back down into the computer system that we have at the front here. So if we break this, you'll see that the cable goes into there. Okay, next thing, the alloying, the auto crafting of the alloys. The way that this works is we have a smeltery down here, like a smaller one. This doesn't actually need any lava, which is great because it's not actually smelting anything. All it's doing is taking in the 2 liquids, mixing them together, and then outputting the result, which is not exactly how it works in real life, but you know, it's how it works in Tinkers. So we have our auto crafter here with all of our patterns set up. So as you can see, you've got the right ratios. So, you know, 1 bucket of gold to 1 bucket of silver, 1 bucket of nickel, 2 buckets of iron, to 3 buckets of invar. Those ratios are fine. Note, it doesn't work with steel. Now the reason it doesn't work with steel, oh, hold on. Right, if we look at the molten steel recipe, move over to alloying, you can see that there are 2 different ratios you can use. So we have our 9 millibuckets of iron to 25 millibuckets of coal, and the same down here. We also have the 18 millibuckets of iron to 25 millibuckets of coal. Now the thing is, no matter which one of these recipes we use, it's always going to create an error as it can't decide which one to use in the actual smeltery, and you always end up with some leftover coal in the end that kind of clogs up the smeltery and doesn't quite work. So steel doesn't work. Every single other alloy works. It's just that steel has 2 recipes, because of course it does. So steel doesn't work. Anyway, we have our other alloys in here. So we have nickel and iron makes invar, copper and nickel makes constantan, copper and tin makes bronze, so on. That means we put them all in this crafter with some speed upgrades to increase the speed at which they are inputted into the smeltery, because otherwise they would be inputted incredibly slowly. It's already pretty slow even with 4 speed upgrades. I tried a stack upgrade, it doesn't actually work. So there's that. So that goes into the smeltery drain. Now it has to be the drain because that's how you input and output liquids from the smeltery. So this will now mean that when you use the recipes in the computer, it will automatically input the liquids into this smeltery and alloy them together. Now I have a fluid conduit. I've used an ender fluid conduit. You don't have to. Ender ones are just the fastest ones. You can probably do this with the lowest tier fluid conduit and it would work fine. It probably wouldn't actually make any difference. I'm just using ender ones because, well, I'm in creative mode anyway. So I have these exporting with the filter for every single one of the liquids, the alloys that is. And these are exporting into a fluid interface, which just allows you to import liquids into a computer system without the exporters and importers and all that stuff. You can probably use an importer straight onto the drain and have it go into the computer without the fluid interface. Don't quote me on it. I haven't tried it. Might work. So if you don't want to use fluid conduits, that might be a way of doing it. I don't know. You can try that. And then this just means that now the fluids go in here, they mix together, and they extract out the alloys. And so that works. That's how that works. That's fairly simple. It's the other part that's not quite so simple. So we have our patterns in here for all of the ingots. So every single one of our ingots, alloys and non-alloys, because every single one of them can make a tool part. And these all go into a basic fluid tank because the main ingredient that they use is the molten liquid. If you stack 2 crafters behind each other like this, it basically acts as one crafter with more space in it. But anyway, it inserts into this fluid tank and extracts out of here and into this smeltery drain of this smeltery, which also doesn't require lava because this one only takes liquids in as a way to dump them into a casting table. The only smeltery you actually need lava for is the main one, which, you know, already has visible tanks, whereas these ones are obviously trying to be hidden so that it doesn't look as ugly. So basically this will take all of the liquids that you want. You really don't need to make it this big, right? Because the biggest tool part only requires like 8 ingots. You can make it like the minimum size and it'll probably still work. You do need room for at least 1 drain and a controller and a tank, but I mean you kind of need that stuff anyway for the minimum size. Anyway, these 5 crafters here are all the crafters for the templates, said that twice now, casts, which means that when you select these casts from the computer, they will automatically deposit into this casting table the cast that you want. Now, the redstone clock here means that it'll automatically dump any liquids you have into this casting table. And the way that this works now is once you have the liquids coming through this pipe into the smeltery, it will automatically dump into this casting table where the pattern is, the cast, as I keep forgetting its name. Now this Redstone Comparator is essentially waiting for the tool part to cool down, and it will output a redstone signal once the tool part has cooled down, which is ideal because this now goes into this auto breaker, which is set to pulse mode, which means that once this receives a redstone signal, it will automatically do that, break the casting table. Right, I need a new one. A new casting table. In fact, breaking it is a good way to see what's underneath. It will automatically, this iron conduit here will extract, so it will take the casting table from this auto breaker, extract it and put it into this placer, which automatically places it. So it will straight away place the casting table down once it's broken, but the contents of the casting table, which is the cast and the tool part, will just go and drop on the ground and be sucked up by the vacuum chest, which automatically inputs it into the computer. Now, if you didn't get any of that from either of these things, I will show you both of them in action. So, let's make some molten bronze, which should go into this tank here, which has nothing in. So if you look at the back, you can see we have molten bronze in the item filter, which means that this is the molten bronze tank. So, molten bronze. For this, let's make 100 ingots. So each ingot is 144 millibuckets, so that's 10 ingots, 100 ingots. You can use a calculator to find out exact amounts of ingots if you really need exact amounts of ingots, but you know, 1, 10 and 100 are generally fine, and 1,000 if you want to go that extreme. Start. Now we are missing some tin, so let's get some tin ore, and I believe that is this tank here. Yep, because all of the others have some in already, and tin smelts relatively quickly anyway, so that doesn't matter. So you can actually look here as the tin automatically deposits into this tank, where we now have 14 blocks, 2 ingots, which if you do the maths, that is 128 ingots, because it's doubled the ores, which we had 64 of. Okay, now that we have all of the tin, let's try this again. 14400, start, available tin, available copper, start. Now, we go underground here, you can start to see this smeltery being filled with both tin and copper, and then the bronze being filled up here with everything. So, this is the long part, because the inputting of liquids here is fairly slow. You can actually increase the speed if you really want to, by increasing the amount of buckets each one of these patterns does. So if you look at this one here, we've only got 0.003 buckets of copper and 0.001 buckets of tin per thing. Oh, and we're just about to miss it. So now that this smeltery is full, the rest of this fills up and it drains out. There you go. Anyway, if you want it to be faster, instead of finding the recipe, you can make the recipe yourself. You won't be able to do as precise measurements if you do it with more than the lowest. So for example, this one is 0.003 and 0.001, which makes 0.004, which means that you can make very precise amounts of molten bronze if you really want, to the nearest multiple of 0.004. If you don't need it to be that precise, you can change the recipe and it will actually increase the speed, as this crafter will input more buckets of copper and tin per action. Because at the moment, per action, it's only adding in the amount that's on the pan. So there you go. That is why that is so slow. But if we now go up here, you can see that our molten bronze tank is filled with 11 blocks and 1 ingot, or 14,400 millibuckets of bronze. And there you go. That is the alloying. Now, if we wanted to make a bronze large plate, Control Shift click on the large plate, select, start. We now go back over to the casting table, and as you can see, the large plate has been deposited in the casting table. Then we look at the material cost for the large plate, which is 8 ingots. So we go to bronze, which is this one. Turn it up to 8, hit start, and now we can go down here and you can see this being filled with bronze and automatically emptied, and then the smeltery over here being filled with bronze, and the bronze being poured slowly into this large plate cast, where if we get a better look this way, you will be able to see the comparator go off once this has cooled down. And there you go. And then the vacuum chest has already sucked up the items and put them into the computer, and the casting table has been replaced. And we look in here, and there is our bronze large plate cast, as well as the large plate cast that we have left over there. Oh boy, there you go. That is the system. It's not that useful, right? It's slightly faster than doing it by hand, but come on, this looks a lot cooler, right? And like the fact that you can go in here and see all of your liquids in, like, you know, you can see how much of everything you've got. It's really cool. I feel like you could definitely make this look nicer by building like a giant factory, having like the tanks everywhere. You could also automate the smelting process if you could generate enough lava to keep that going. It doesn't use much lava, but it would actually use some. And lava is not lava is a finite resource unless you're playing with certain mods. You could use mystical agriculture to grow yourself some lava, or, you know, there are multiple ways of doing it. Mystical agriculture is the one that springs to mind because it's 100% renewable. It doesn't use any ingredients at all other than the fire plant and the buckets, which it doesn't use up. Anyway, you could automate the smelting process. And if you look on the Refined Storage wiki, which is genuinely really useful, it tells you everything you need to know about refined storage. There's so much documentation there, it's great. That tells you how to set up restocking of anything in a storage system automatically. So you could have like you could have your smeltery system always have in it like 100 ingots of iron or something like that. It won't look that good if you don't have it restocked to really large amounts. Because if you look here, this is 6 ingots of constantine. That's not a good example. If you look here, this is 11 blocks of invar. That tiny little sliver of liquid, that's 11 blocks. That is a lot of blocks. But then you look here at aluminium. This is like a nice looking tank. Like there's like a, you know, a fat gap of liquid in there. It looks nice. If you have a bunch of these set up with that much in, it would look really cool because you could see all of the liquids. But that is nearly, well, not nearly 70, 63 blocks, which is, that's a lot. You don't need me to tell you that that is a lot of aluminium. Like, if you want these to look nice, it's going to cost you a lot of ingots. But we do have mystical agriculture in this mod pack, so it's not that big a deal. You can set up this system without any worries, really. Another issue is you can only do one of these at a time. You can't set up multiple, like you can't say I put in the large plate cast and then I click on the bronze and say 16 ingots. That won't work. They won't make 2 large plate casts. It'll make 1 and then get confused with the second lot. So you could definitely improve the logic here and make it work a lot better than I have. But it's the concept that I've set up here, really. It's not the best like outcome possible, but it works as an idea, and you can build on it, and you can make it more impressive. I might do a video where I fully like sort everything out, make it as good as you possibly can with the auto restocking and everything like that. I might see if I can do that, but for now I'm pretty happy with this. So thank you very much for watching. I hate to be the guy that's like, oh, smash that like button, you know, but like genuinely the reason that this has come out at all, like granted it's been 3 months, right, since the last one, maybe even more if I can't be asked to edit this together, but hopefully I will edit this together tonight. Genuinely the reason that I uploaded this was because of comments, people saying that they really enjoyed it, people saying that it was good, and like that makes you feel good, man. I'm not very good with commitments. I don't know. I'm not very good at keeping things going. Like I get distracted and do other things very very easily, and you know, if it weren't for nice comments and getting lots of likes and views and whatever, I genuinely don't think I would have made another one. It actually really really does help. Like it doesn't actually do any, like I don't care about whatever the number or like or the algorithm or anything like that. I just want to make videos that will help other people enjoy this game more, because the one thing is that I see in modern Minecraft a lot is that like a lot of the cool stuff people just overlook. Like a lot of the stuff that you can do that's like, oh, that's so cool. Like auto crafting is something that I absolutely love. I do it in every single playthrough of this game because one of the most useful things you can do, and there's so many cool things you can do with it. And I just thought that like there's kind of things outside the box a little bit more than just, oh, I set up a thing to automatically craft a wooden gear or something like that, you know. But anyway, if you would like to see more of these, please do comment or like, or just, you know, do something to make sure that, you know, I will actually be motivated to make another one, because, you know, I'm not very motivated generally. But thank you very much for watching. I've rambled too much at the end here, and I will see you next time in hopefully not 3 months. Bye.